It's 7 p.m., March 21st, 2016. I'll call to order the Board of Selectmen, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda will be acceptance of minute meetings. We'll start with the meeting of February 22nd.
Motion to approve the regular session meeting minutes for Monday, February 2016. 22nd, 2016.
We have a motion and second. Discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Abstain.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Executive session, February 22nd. Excuse me?
Looking for a yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Executive session, February 22nd.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Are we approving for release or not release?
We can release these, no problem.
No.
We cannot. Obviously, there's some ongoing litigation with these, so we won't be able to release them at this point. We have a motion and second. Discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Abstain.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. March 7th, regular session.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. March 7th, executive session.
Motion to approve not for release.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. Okay, our next item on the agenda will be Linda Gagne, appointment to Webster Cultural Council. Lisa, excuse me, I don't have my glasses. So, why don't you come up, introduce yourself?
Readers.
You can have a seat right
Just
there.
have a seat right there.
Go ahead. There you go. Right there.
I've lived in the town about 25 years now. I have an appreciation for community involvement in the arts, and I hope to get involved with the cultural commission in Webster.
That's wonderful. We appreciate your coming forward and accepting the challenge. Any other members have any questions, statements?
No, just thanks for stepping up.
Can we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to appoint Lisa Gagne to the Webster Cultural Council.
Second.
A motion and second. Discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. You'll just need to go to the town clerk and get sworn in, and they'll give you a little card.
Is the office right behind ours?
Right,
Not today.
right behind us. Yeah.
If you can.
Thank you.
Next item, Lobster Nook, transfer of a license. How you doing? Dean, how are you? Very well. So what we have in front of us is the owners of Lobster Nook
Past owner
selling.
and the
Right.
present owner, Mr. Simon.
Well, you know, you guys did a great job. We welcome you to our community, and I'm sure you'll do just as great a job as Dean and his wife did.
Well,
without his support, I wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah.
His biggest support for me, yeah.
we had a wonderful time. I think the residents of Webster were absolutely so great to us when we started off, and for 17 months, the place was just booming with excitement, and it was such a great thing for my family and all the co-workers that we had involved there, and just came to a time when we needed to just go in a different direction. And very fortunate we found somebody who I think will do even a better job than we did, and Mr. Saeed here, who has worked diligently to go through all the processes with the town, and we're ready and look forward to reopening for you guys.
So, no more 100-hour work weeks, right?
I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, you're taking a vacation with
I
the
do have another
family.
job, it's pretty important. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I looked at my kids, and I have one daughter who's studying education, another one who's studying to be a nurse, and we wanted to do business. So I said, as much as I love what I'm doing and I'm passionate about it, it was time to pass the baton on. But the good thing is, many of the co-workers, the workers are still there. The idea is gonna be the same, and we're hoping that the people will still recognize the same smiling faces when they come in. So just a different owner, and the owner is
Wonderful.
more than capable of making it work.
Well, we know Dean, so why don't you tell us about yourself, your background?
Well, my name is Fawad Sayed. I go by Pasha. I've been living in here 17 years. Living in Webster, moved to Dudley, which is the same town. I do have a job, but I'm thinking of doing something outside my regular track of work, and was looking for some investment. And a broker, basically, I was looking for something else. He said, no, right where you live, there's a great concept, and the gentleman has done something, and you should think about that. I said, really? Where is it? So we had a meeting, and I was not really excited about the place. I had no idea, but after meeting him, it grew on me very quickly. And I live in Dudley, Sawmill Road. It's like 5-10 minutes walk for me. So I really like the way it's set up is, and it's very popular. I know the other friends told me best place to have a lobster roll. You know. So I'm really excited about this. I had great support. I interviewed a lot of young, energetic, amazing people who will work as a team to run it. So I'm very happy that I will be able to give job to people, you know, and to work there.
Well, we appreciate that, too.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you picking up the torch and staying in Webster.
I've been in Webster for a long time, and some people know me. I was surprised to see Andrew here, know me for a long, long time.
Everyone knows Andrew.
Mr. Webster.
Yeah.
First banker. Yeah.
So do we have a motion on
Yeah, I'll make a
floor?
motion to approve.
Second.
a motion and second? Any discussion?
Well, in a way of discussion, I just want to congratulate Dean again. Just, you know, you really have built something that I think most people probably thought was against the odds, having lobster in Webster, and even doing that year-round, which I know many places wouldn't even touch. And you've really just kind of added to this revitalization with the Lobster Nook. You know, I know we've said this to Brian Kretschmann with the brewery and these other businesses that look like they just wouldn't survive Webster, but have garnished this foothold and are bringing back this revitalization. So I'm overjoyed to see that this business will still be going forward, and hopefully you'll be taking a vacation.
Well, thank you.
That's a great encouragement for us. I really appreciate it.
I did sign on for about 6 months to ensure the
Good.
transition was smooth for Pasha, but at the end of the day, it's really a tribute to the people in town, and thank you. And they frequent our place quite a bit, and we saw the same faces over and over again. At that point, we knew we were doing something right, and you just gotta be part of the community.
I know I was about 25% of your
I did
business,
see
but
that quite often. It was good. We had some great discussions, but, you know, it was just a great opportunity for us. And I look at the lessons that my children had a chance to learn as a result of building a business from the bottom up and making it successful. And I like to say we're leaving on top of our game, and that's not a bad place to leave at.
well, you've
So-
raised some hard-working kids too, because I saw
I
them busting
do.
their butts.
Yeah, we're blessed. We really are.
So I'm allowed to add this to, that I passed through that part of the road many times, million times, from Webster to Dudley, the railroad tracks,
Mm.
and I never liked that corner. And, you know, it's dark and all this. Still I go there, 24 hours convenience store, you can get in the middle of the night, you can get something. And I think by starting a business over there, he actually made a good contribution.
Yeah, he did.
More
Certainly
activity,
did.
normal people coming there.
Absolutely, and the outdoor seating too. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
I
a
want to
great
have
asset.
more lights over there, more presence, lively activity, so the darkness goes away from there, and people start using it as a normal part of Webster. This is my
Well, if you feel like starting another business in Webster, you let us know,
That's
and you
all.
can just keep selling that one off too.
I'd like to take 1 year off if I could.
Okay.
Try to enjoy that
We'll
time.
allow it.
Thank you.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. Hold the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Degevich?
Yes. All set. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
guys.
When you gonna open?
It's open for the 31st.
Okay,
And we're trying this coming next weekend.
all right.
We are going to have a soft start.
And then full bore, right?
You're
Okay.
in good hands, it'll be fine.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Okay, next, James Chauvin, our town treasurer.
Good evening. Here tonight to ask the board to transfer to vote that the surplus properties right now are in your hands, and the law firm that we use for our tax titles is recommending that you vote to give me, be the custodian of these properties, especially with like the auction coming up and stuff. Most other towns, the treasurer is the custodian of the properties and stuff. It's easier and stuff that I can work with Ted without having to get the selectmen involved. Decisions can be made and stuff. So that's basically what I'm here tonight, and just give you an update on the auction.
So who does it now? You, Pam? Who's the
No, it's the
custodian?
Board of Selectmen. When we have gone to town meeting and asked them to declare properties surplus, whether they be properties that were in the town's possession that we want to get rid of, or that we got them through tax foreclosure process, the articles say to grant the selectmen the ability.
Right, so we're still gonna do that and just give him the responsibility to
This is
oversee it?
making him the
We appoint.
custodian of
So
all
he's
the
gonna
tax
actually
possession
claim it?
properties.
Okay.
Correct.
The treasurers, yeah,
Okay.
The
the
treasurer,
treasurer.
right.
So does that also mean too that when we have those items come up, they wouldn't have to go through the town meeting process, or they still have to go through the town
They
meeting?
still have to go through town meeting process, but it will be
Right,
to
to the
grant the
treasurer
treasurer
instead of
the
the selectmen.
authority. And again, as Mr. Chauvin stated, this is normal in other communities. So it is the treasurer who is, and we're not putting a name, we're recommending it is the treasurer.
Yeah.
So whoever that person may be.
And this is a recommendation of our tax title attorneys.
Correct.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jordan?
Yes.
Selectman Duggan?
Yes. And now the town-owned properties.
Yeah, if I could just have 2 seconds and stuff. Our auction is scheduled for Friday, April 22nd at noontime in the auditorium. It is up on the website. If anybody out there wants to take a look, we've had a lot of interest. Mr. Zikos, who I spoke to 2 weeks ago, said he's been getting calls from contractors in Boston. This is Webster's first, so a lot of these contractors from out of town believe that they haven't been here before and they want to start coming to look. So I just ask people, read, there's a lot of information on here from Mr. Zikos' company. Read it and stuff. There's going to be you're going to register probably like a half hour ahead of the auction. You can pick up and do your due diligence. If you want, you can go outside, take pictures, look at the property, see where they are and stuff. And hopefully, we're going to have a successful auction and bring in some money, get them rehabbed, put them back on the tax roll.
That's the name of the game.
Yes.
Do we know how many properties are on the?
Six.
Six.
They're on the website, so
I just haven't looked yet.
And if there's
That's
any
it.
questions,
Just a quick question. There's no opportunity, I assume, to be allowed to go inside the buildings?
We're not allowing that.
So these are as is?
yeah, and
Buyer
it
beware.
explains it on the,
Uh.
on the website.
And there is a link on our website straight to the Zikos group.
Yep.
Who's handling the auction for us, and they have all the field cards and all the other information there.
And he's willing to take any calls if you know of anybody that's interested. Call him, he has more information and stuff. You can look at the field cards, you can look at everything right on our website.
Wonderful.
And these are all viable properties. These are all, rehabable, that's probably
Yep,
not a
yep.
word, but
Oh, yeah.
able to be rehabbed, and they're all very viable properties.
Wonderful.
All set?
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Pam, just as a point of clarification, do we need to give the specific language for the motion that was included in our packet,
Back of this.
or is that not necessary?
Referencing the law pursuant to, right, vote to appoint, whoever made the motion, is that so moved?
I'll just amend my motion to say, as provided under Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77B, I hereby move to appoint.
William
so-
Starzak
Yeah, so I
hereby
guess my name,
appoint.
we're gonna put my name.
Mhm.
I, William Starzak, hereby move to appoint the town treasurer as tax possession custodian, who shall move the care, custody, management, and control of all property acquired by foreclosure, deed in lieu of foreclosure, or by treasurer's deed for unpaid taxes.
Thank you.
That would be the amended motion.
Do we have a second on the amended
Second.
motion? Okay, discussion, poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Julda?
Yes.
Selectman Diggle?
Yes.
Good catch.
Okay, Library Planning and Building Committee presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We appreciate this time to be able to meet with you, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of the library design and also get to meet some of the people we've had the privilege of working with.
Maybe we can introduce everyone.
Well, I was going to
Yeah.
introduce, first of all, the members of the Board of Trustees who are here. Father Kniffy, Catherine Martin, and members who could not be here were Richard Casalt, Nancy Lamfram-Boyce, Margaret Sheehan, and last but not least, Jean Travis, who, without her persistence, I don't think we would be talking about a new library. The building committee includes Ted Avlis, Amanda Grenier, who is our library director, Andrew Jolda, Rena Claybart, Pam, Ken Pizzetti, and Ray Travis. We have met diligently to take a look at the programming needs and the needs of the town so that the library represents not just the people who are presently utilizing the library, but for future generations. With us this evening are representatives from Daedalus. So Richard Marks is the president. Alicia was not able to be here, but Tom. And the architects are Odin Zello, and this is Matt Odin and Chris, who have been working with the building committee on the design. Okay.
Thank you, Rena. Thank you all for having us tonight. I wanted to give you a little bit of background before we get into the design, just very briefly to put this in context for you. As Rena mentioned, we've spent some months now working with the committee to get to the point where we are. But when we first came to the site, we walked around, we visited the existing library, we wanted to get a sense of the town and the center of Webster. And a couple of initial observations that we took away that influenced the way that we then thought about the design for the new library were really related to this particular site. And one of the great things about this site is, the library site, is that it borders a shared landscape between Town Hall, the Senior Center, and the library. So this really is a heart of Webster, and fronting that green space we thought was something that couldn't be overlooked. The existing building has its main entrance on Lake Street and a side entrance on the park. And we thought it would be more appropriate for the building to actually have its main entrance facing the park, more visible from the view corridor down Main Street, as far back as several blocks. You can see down Main Street and see that what will be the new front of the library along the west side of that site. And even coming down this way on Main Street and to this intersection here, this is such a prominent corner. The Lake Street address felt less civic to us, and we thought this is a building that really needs to have a civic presence for Webster. It's an important building, a public library for a town. Its position as an important town building next to Town Hall we thought couldn't be overlooked, and its fortuitous adjacency to the park we thought was a really nice advantage. This was a three-dimensional model that we did of the existing conditions, so this is basically illustrating the current library. So you're seeing the side entrance, and what we're proposing is that really this become, instead of a side and a secondary entrance, it really become the front, and the main entrance currently on Lake Street is abandoned. We spent a number of weeks with the committee reviewing the space needs program that was developed in relation to the state grant. Some adjustments were made. We spent some time with both the state commissioners, library commissioners, and with Amanda, trying to determine what the right program was moving forward, and then a distribution of that program between the two floors. What's going to be on the main floor, what's on the second floor, how do we start to distribute those different spaces in this new library. And so I'll walk you through the design now. Starting with the site plan, so this is oriented with Lake Street on the right side, the Memorial Park up at the top. This is a tight site, you all know it well. We've got room for 30 cars, 30 parking stalls, which meets zoning. A building which is roughly 23,000 square feet on 2 levels, no basement.
What's the current building, do you know?
What's the current building square footage? 7,000? 7.
I just want to put it in perspective for the record in case people wanted to see.
Yeah, it's about a 3 times growth. So this is a view of the first floor, the ground floor of the library, with the main elevation facing the park, a prominent corner reading room, and I'll walk through the plans in more detail in a minute. But the entrance is squarely on that main park, but a lot of visibility at this corner. It takes up a good bit of the site, as you can see, and it actually encroaches over the property line a bit onto town land for the adjacent park, which is the only way to get both the minimum parking requirement and a building that satisfies the program onto that site. So this is about as tightly planned as it can be. To walk quickly through the floors and the arrangement of the different programs, the entrance is off of a covered porch, up a few steps. There's a gradual grade to the site of about in the 12 to 15 foot range from the far southern corner to the northern corner. So the back end of parking down to this corner. And so we needed to put this building in that site in a way that negotiated those grades. So we come in on grade at parking through a side entrance, and we come up some stairs at the front entrance or ramp up a walkway and double back onto the covered porch and in. So it's accessible from both entrances. Into a generous lobby space that has the circulation desk directly across as you walk in. So there's a staff person there to greet you. This is also a prominent location for the circulation desk. It's a small staff, we know in this library, which is not uncommon. And so it's important that the staff be placed strategically in the plan so that they can see as much of the library plan as possible. So from this position, a staff person can monitor the 2 entrances, entrance into a multi-purpose meeting room, which is about 110-seat meeting room with supporting kitchen, storage room. The adult collection is quite open and occupies this main projected glass bay at the corner of Lake Street and Main Street. A computer center, which is directly opposite the circulation desk. And then all of the staff support spaces, public restrooms, elevator are along this back side. This is the driveway along here leading to parking. The stair to the upper level then is an open stair in that lobby. This is open to the lower level. So this is an open space that's open all the way up to skylights, and we'll see a section in a minute. The balance of the adult program is located at the top of the stairs, periodicals, a local history meeting room, and historic archives, quiet study rooms. On the opposite end of the floor is the main children's reading room above the main adult reading room. Entrance into the children's area here with the children's librarian, also in a strategic location here, able to monitor all of this program, but also able to see fully across into the remainder of the adult program. Teens are directly adjacent to the children's area, but separate in their own dedicated space, but also super visible by the children's staff. These are those same plans, but in a 3D view, just to give you a better idea. This is looking now the other way, so we're standing, sort of hovering over the corner of Lake Street and Main. This is that glass reading room bay, projected bay that I mentioned. This is the first floor, so this is the adult reading room. Main entrance is here. So you see the steps up, the sidewalk is sloping up onto a porch, covered porch here. Main entrance into a lobby, circulation desk, computers, meeting room, staff spaces along the back, parking in the southern end of the site. And then the second floor, again, second floor of that glass projected bay is the children's reading room. Great views overlooking the park, also really visible, to passersby. Open floor down to the lobby below, top lit. Teens in this corner, the balance of the adult program at this end. And then there's a lower roof over the porch. This is the covered porch. Taller roof over the main portion of the building, and then, as I mentioned, there's skylights over that lobby space to try to bring natural light. And this is a very square-ish plan, so difficult to get natural light deep in. We thought from the very beginning that it was important to try to figure out a way to get natural light into the middle of this building. So as we move around it from the outside, this is the view again, now down at the ground, at the corner of Lake and Main. You're looking at that corner projected bay, adult reading room on the first floor, children on the second floor, covered entry porch, entry doors here. And then moving around onto the park, a frontal view of the entrance, that same glass bay, covered porch, that's the lantern skylight above. Now this is a section cut through the building from the same vantage point, so basically just as if you've taken a few steps into the building. This is the main lobby, open up to the second floor and open to the skylight at the top. The periodicals room at this end, children at this end, adult and meeting room. And then a view as you're moving around towards parking. In terms of materials, we have thought from the beginning that this should be a brick building. That seems to make sense. There's certainly a contextual tie-in there between both the old library and the new police station, town hall. But this is clearly a contemporary building, so it's brick, but in a new way. It's complemented by some softer tones, so we have wood on the underside of the porch. There's wood cladding on the two columns that are supporting this end of that canopy, and there's wood around the entrance, the sort of deep set entrance of the main building. The brick is still a work in progress in terms of color and texture. What's indicated here is that we think that the brick under the porch will be probably a slightly different tone or a different texture, maybe greater relief in the brick or different pattern, something that distinguishes it from this. So this is really a bit of a placeholder in terms of the true rendering of the materials, but it gives you a sense of where we're heading with it. And we are, this is just to give you a frame of reference for the columns. I'll back up one slide. The columns that we have here are very similar to columns that we did at a park for Massport. This is down at the Seaport in Boston. These are steel columns that are clad in a type of wood that's very durable for exterior use. It's ipe, which is an ironwood, very resistant to rot, pest infestation, performs very well outside. So if you happen to know this park or are downtown, that gives you a sense of what we're thinking of.
It's not something we'd have to have the custodian climb up every year and put oil on it or...
That's something we're going to continue to talk about as a committee. It can be left to weather. It can also be preserved so that it keeps its brown color. And those are two options that we're discussing.
Yeah, did the committee also discuss possibly trying to mimic the columns that we have outside Town Hall, or did that look too redundant to the committee, that you wanted the more kind of eco look? That's what we're going here? I can see you're smiling.
We had talked about the columns, and since this is a really contemporary building, the idea of the columns is there, but in no way mimicking what the auditorium looks like.
Sure. Yeah, and the columns in Town Hall are concrete. They're a proportion that is appropriate to this building, and the library is a very different scale than Town Hall. It's also a very different building type, and I think needs to deliver a different kind of message. I think town halls have a different kind of civic stature than public libraries do. Public libraries tend to be a little more informal, a little less imposing. And so we wanted the entrance to feel comfortable.
Do we
and
kind of have
welcoming.
like the community mullet, we have business up front, party in the rear, is that what you're saying?
I guess I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, you could call it the mullet.
Sure,
the civic
I get what you're
mullet.
saying, it makes sense.
I like it.
I think the only question I would have is the ability to tie in a little bit to the buildings around it. The only thing I could think of, if you haven't seen it, Nichols College, where they built the new Fell Center, it's a very modern front, a lot of glass, but they've done things up there to tie it into the other buildings. My only concern is, and I'm not an architect, I'm not the greatest drawer in the world, but just there's a lot of glass here. You might need something to bring it in to its surrounding buildings, that's all.
Well, could you tell me again the building that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's the Fell Center. It's a new academic center. Rena may
Okay.
know.
You know it. I see.
And it's
Okay.
worth, I think, to at least
Yeah,
have the
we'll take a look.
architects take a look at it and see how it ties in.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to touch on was the schedule, just to give you a sense of where we are. This is our overall schedule from start of design to end of document. So this is when we are putting a set out to bid, which is mid-August and late August of 2017. We are at this red line here. So we're about halfway through the second stage of design, which we call design development. So we've gone through schematic design. We're in the design development stage. In about a month, we will be getting into construction documents, which is really when we start producing the documents that will be put out to bid.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's
It's
excellent.
quite informative, beautiful building. and
Sure.
Like Mr. Becker said, it looks a little contemporary, to match,
Though I'm sure you'll find a way to make it
Yeah.
fit in very nicely.
but it is beautiful,
Thank you.
and the setup looks really nice.
Great.
So,
I would like to say what a pleasure it's been working with this building committee. They have been extremely generous with their time, and it really has been a pleasure to try to incorporate the program needs and the town needs at the same time. It's a pleasure.
that's great. Any questions of the board?
I'd just like to applaud everybody for the hard work that went into not only this, but I mean, even just from, debating it at the town meeting floor and getting state funding and the whole process through and through. I mean, there's so many people to mention. It's not even a bit funny. I can't wait to read a book there. It looks phenomenal.
I think the town's going to be incredibly proud.
Yeah.
Now,
phenomenal.
will you be doing programs at the library so people can come in and look at the plans as things go on and can get their input?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Through the entire construction project, we'll be establishing a temporary library, so that there'll always be a facility within the community as
Right.
well.
Could we just take a moment? The committee needs to, we have posted a meeting, so if you could just indulge us for just a moment, we need to adjourn.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the library building committee.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
And just a reminder, April 1st, the library is having a get-together at Point Breeze at 6 o'clock. It really is to honor the Friends group, but also we will have additional information about the library plans.
And Pam, correct, we are going to make sure that we get an electronic copy of the presentation to put on the town's website.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, as we move along, the next item on the agenda will be the Acton Town Administrator's Report.
My report, and then, draft budget behind it, yes, one of each, please. Thank you. Okay, so, my report is very brief because I want to spend some time going over the draft budget that I've just handed out. So under departmental updates and announcements, a reminder to everyone that a special town meeting will be held on Monday, May 9th at 6 p.m. in the Bartlett High School auditorium, followed by the spring annual town meeting at 7 p.m. The deadline to submit citizen petitions for both meetings is Friday, March 25th at noon. That's this Friday. Hydrant flushing. The water department will be beginning our spring hydrant flushing the week of March 28th. The water department will begin flushing hydrants throughout the town and continue until completed. Flushing of hydrants will be conducted during normal business hours in most areas. We expect the program to be complete within 6 to 8 weeks. During flushing operations, you may notice dirty or discolored water. Please do not be alarmed. This is normal and does not pose a health risk. Please check your water before using to avoid this situation. Please refer to the town's website for information on the current zone being flushed, www.webster-ma.gov. Under departments and committees, click on Water Sewer Department, and then over on the right-hand side of the page, click on Webster Water Update. Scroll to the bottom of that page, and you will find the spring 2016 schedule along with the current week, whatever that week may be, flushing map and which zone is being flushed. So that information is readily available to everyone on the website. And for further information, please feel free to contact the Water Department at 508-949-3861. Our Independence Day fireworks display is scheduled for Friday, July 1st at Memorial Beach. We just put out an RFP. We were requesting back Wednesday, Courtney, is it Wednesday? Wednesday, and again, the town is able to fund the fireworks display on our own this year again, after several years of, again, very wonderful families in town who have assisted us in that regard. But this year, for the second year in a row, we are able to fund the fireworks ourselves. Under informational items, I have just handed out the fiscal 2017 draft budget for the general fund only. And I just like to go over some of the highlights. So I've included an additional revenues analysis, and this provides a snapshot of the additional revenues that were available when putting together the budget. Our local receipts are level funded from adjusted budget for this year. Adjusted budget means those receipts that were reported to the Department of Revenue on our recap sheet. Other revenues that are available are real and personal property tax levy is calculated as our FY16 levy limit times the 2.5%, Prop 2.5, and estimated new growth, which was $100,000, giving us approximately $600,000. Our cherry sheet estimated receipts, net of offset receipts, were a little over $1 million. Our actual estimated charges also went up. We gained more money. We are paying less in assessments, and that's a credit to our school department. Their school choice out has decreased this year. So we're going in the right direction. So that gives us additional revenues of $1.6 million plus. Our fixed cost increases are approximately $500,000, leaving additional revenues available for appropriation of $1,115,095. We have a proposed education appropriation increase of $850,000. That is Chapter 70. That is the increase from Chapter 70. That is only not even $5,000, $4,000 plus from the town. Okay, that increase is all, it's $845,000 plus of Chapter 70. On the revenue sheet, just to call a couple of things to your attention. Under other financing sources, you'll see Town of Dudley, SWEC, and under reductions in revenue, you will see SWEC. I have talked about this. Our regional dispatch, the Town of Webster acts as a fiduciary for that entity. So it is going to be pulled out of our general fund budget, and it's going to be accounted for in a special revenue fund. What these numbers represent are reductions of revenue. This is the Town of Webster's assessment, other than benefits. Their benefits are appropriated in the general fund, we fund it in the general fund, so we're not going to pay ourselves, if you will. So this number is strictly operating costs. And the way the allocation is between the towns of Webster and Dudley currently, the town of Webster, and this allocation is spelled out in the intermunicipal agreement we have with Dudley. It's based on population and 911 calls, the amount of 911 calls for each community. Currently, the town of Webster pays 70.3% of the SWEC budget, and the town of Dudley is responsible for 29.7%. Again, this 400,000 plus is 70.3% of the proposed operating budget only for SWEC. The town of Dudley SWEC, this is their 29.7% of benefits only, the benefits that are appropriated in the general fund. So that's what that number represents. I'm gonna call your attention down to overlay under reductions in revenue, $175,000. We normally appropriate $150,000 a year for overlay, which I have level funded. There's $25,000. This budget includes priorities, and one of those priorities, I made a promise to several residents who have been asking about the Veterans and Senior Tax Work-Off Program, and this budget contains funding to get those programs. Mrs. Kessner, she's smiling at me. Finally, Mrs. Kessner, and again, I apologize, but again, funding, everything's subject to appropriation, so I have included funding in this budget to get those programs off the ground. The next page is just a calculation of the minimum budget requirement for fiscal 17 for the school department. So as of this rendering, the draft number 1 of the budget, it will provide the school with $1,852,160 above that minimum budget requirement. Just for a point of reference, last year, this year actually, fiscal 16's adopted budget was $1,901,606 above the minimum budget requirement. So we're about $50,000 less below, but we're still in the range. I'm just gonna go through a few of the budgets, just to note some of the highlights here. And again, I was the only one who saw this document up until last Friday when I shared it with the school. I did some changes and shared it with them again this morning. So my eyes were the only ones. Thank God I gave it to Courtney before we came here tonight, and she picked up on a mistake, which I will correct before I release this to the Finance Committee this evening before I leave the building. Under the Board of Selectmen, ADA coordinator stipend, that should be 0. There is no stipend for the ADA coordinator, and that $3,350 is reallocated out throughout the expense budget for the Board of Selectmen. Going down to town administrator, you will see on salary reserve, I have $100,000 under salary reserve. I am currently negotiating 3 contracts, clerks, DPW, and police. I'm negotiating in good faith with them. There are no increases budgeted within these numbers. Any increases that are granted would come from this $100,000. Also, I need to make a point of saying that non-union employees here in Webster have gotten nothing for the past 4 years. Fiscal 17 would be the 5th. They are a priority for me. Those folks need to get something. So that is also available to provide some type of increase for our non-union employees, especially since one of the other issues and decisions that I've made, we also have not had a health insurance increase in our premiums within the last 4 years. Prior to Mr. McAuliffe leaving, after he had announced that he was leaving, we had requested that he look at transferring from a self-funded model to a strictly premium-based model. Unfortunately, time ran out, and that wasn't able to, no decisions were able to be made prior to his leaving. We looked at it again recently when I was formulating the budget, but at this point in time, because of our loss history and our claims history, it's not financially feasible for us to change at this point. So we're going to stay in the self-insured business for this year, but I am looking at a 15% increase in premiums. Again, our unions have gotten modest increases over the past 4 years. Our non-union people have gotten nothing, and now I'm going to be looking to them for a 15% increase in premiums. So I just wanted to make a point
So
of saying.
before we go on, under, town administrator's executive secretary, which is currently blank, you're funding that position at that dollars amount?
Full-time.
Right, under the assumption that the full-time administrator would hire whomever they want for their talent. So I'm assuming that the bump in pay there so that they can get someone who's basically Courtney level versus an entry level.
That's correct. All of the executive secretaries and non-union administrative assistants in this budget are funded at the exact same rate,
Okay, good.
all at 40 hours a week.
Okay.
Okay? Let's see. Town treasurer's budget. This is restoring the treasurer to the full-time position, if you will. Our elected officials are based on 31.5 hours a week. That's restoring that. Under data processing, we have been looking into a permitting software that will assist our customers being residents, our customers being contractors who do business with us in town. So we've been researching software. We did have we sat through a demonstration on the software several months ago. This is something, again, priorities. When I was meeting with departments, this is going to affect almost all departments with regard to how we issue permits and collect fees for those permits and get the money turned over to the treasurer timely. And we're looking to have that all done on an online basis. Getting access to forms, permits issued. There will be records as far as any inspections done. All of this will be available to our customers online. Goes all the way into animal licenses, all of that. The other thing that is budgeted for in here, and again, whoever's sitting here, if it's not me, they have their own style, but we are looking for this board to go paperless. This will also provide the hardware and the software for us to be able to do that. That's something Courtney and I feel very strongly about.
Yeah, just a question on the computer maintenance line,
Mhm.
where it goes to 90,504. Is that gonna be the amount for each year going forward?
Yes,
Or is
that's
this a
that's
one-time?
Viewpoint.
Okay.
In addition to our Munis financial management software, our real estate software through the assessor's office, our Capinos, software, and also the software related to our voting machines. That's
So
what
this
that
is not just a one-time, this is a continue
Correct.
for the Viewpoint software?
Yes, yes. The increase in election and registration, that's 3 elections. We're budgeting for 3 elections next year. Under code enforcement, we currently have a union person who was the assistant planner. I do not have any intention on filling the town engineer/planner position. This is moving that union person into a department head level position. And this fits into our plan for our code enforcement departments, which include planning, zoning, Concom, economic development, inspections, and Board of Health. Under town office building, we currently have 2 full-time custodians, one budgeted at the police department, one budgeted for the library, and I have a custodian who is second shift, if you will, here in town hall, and is also the part-time custodian for the senior center. This is a 20 hours. We're looking to put that part-timer, he's actually more than part-time, 35 hours a week right now, to a 40-hour full-time position. This is 20 hours I have budgeted here in the town hall on a second shift, again, that's been working out very well basis, and the other 20 hours are budgeted in the senior center. You'll see that. You'll see the decrease in the expenses. the electricity, heating, fuel, and building maintenance for the town office building. That offset is budgeted within the library. Of course, we've talked about, we're planning on housing the library and our auditorium, so all I did was decrease these line items by what's budgeted in the library budget. Okay? Under police department, you will see the deputy chief line is here. It is funded with a small amount, which would be the difference between one salary versus if we reinstitute that deputy chief position. The police chief feels strongly about that. That's to be continued, but I do have sufficient funding in here to restore that deputy chief position. This budget also for the police, the cruisers, this reinstitutes our revolving cruiser replacement program. We lease our cruisers now. It's part of the operating budget. This year, we could not. We only had those cruisers that, I believe we had one. We were scheduled to restore 3. We could only do 1 and then continue with the ongoing leases. This is to restore our normal rotation. Again, SWEC is going to be shown the same way we do water and sewer. Fire department, the finance committee has always discussed the fact that stipends, they don't like to see stipends. I agree with them. That's one of the things I do, believe it or not, I do. Right, Mr. Gabor? Particularly here, the fire chief, this is not an increase for him. This is what he makes. It's just that it was allocated between 4 different accounts. So this is just easier to see. That's the fire chief's salary. It's not allocated between all those different accounts any longer. Let's see. Moving on to inspectional services. Again, Finance Committee, Mr. Berezic particular, and Mr. Finnemore have talked about a revolving fund for our part-time inspectors. Again, I agree with them. We better put this on the calendar. I think that's twice I said that. I agree with them. We are going to be requesting that town meeting approve a revolving fund for the purpose of paying our part-time inspectors by inspection. I've also included $10,000 for nuisance properties. Again, that is one of our priorities, is our nuisance property program. Chief Hickey, Jen Sullivan, and Ted Tatro work very hard at that. And there are many times that we need funds and we steal from, highway or fire or somewhere else to be able to secure some of our nuisance properties. And so I added some seed money in there.
Are we sure that 10,000 is enough?
No. But
It's a start,
it's better than 0.
It's a start.
It's better than 0.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seemed a little small.
Animal control, just it's a small increase, but again, our animal control officer and her assistant, 24/7 on call. They have requested increases over the last few years, very minor increases. I have granted those increases in this budget. Under school town, this decrease is, our Bay Path assessment has decreased this year. Let's see. Again, the engineering department, it's not my plan to replace the town engineer / planner. We have had previous and current relationships with private engineering firms. We will maintain those relationships, and it works for us. Health department, again, we have a clerk, a union clerk, who currently is doing the work of the department head. She, again, on call 24/7, and I think she's making about 35 cents an hour right now. So this is to move that current senior clerk into the department head position and to replace her with another, with a union clerk. We have issues right now with office coverage. It has become a serious issue. Our building commissioner received a call from the state the other day because there were contractors who were complaining, because there was no access, because the office was closed, because they're out responding to calls. So we need clerical assistance in that office. This individual would also provide clerical assistance to the Planning Economic Development Department also.
So you're, in a sense, you're going to be merging and kind of cross-training some of their resources
Absolutely.
in the office sense of it.
Correct.
Okay, which probably is better since a lot of that is kind of cross-spread anyway when they need
It
to
is.
do
It is.
inspections.
And just as a matter of full disclosure, I am gonna look to do that before the fiscal year ends. Again, because of the issue we're having with office coverage, and also because this Viewpoint software, that is a critical position when it comes to setting up the system with Greg, our IT director. And I need someone in place who will be there during all the training and all of that. This is something that we would like to get implemented July 1st. So I think it's extremely, extremely important. Senior Center. I've mentioned several times the town is currently in violation of our contract with NOAA. This budget meets our obligations under that contract and funds a full-time senior center. The senior center director is funded at 40 hours. There's a part-time program director. Again, 20 hours of that full-time custodian, the other 20 hours being budgeted in the town office building department. And a clerk. This is a base union clerk at 35 hours. That heating fuel line you see is still yellow. That heating fuel, we don't know what that number is. We're right now in negotiations with NOAA on how to calculate what our obligation is going to be there. Under Veteran Services, there's a little bit of a change in the salary lines. Mr. Haleva does a wonderful job for us and Dudley. Unfortunately, Mr. Haleva a few months ago lost his wife, and we were thinking he might leave us. I'm very glad that he's not going to leave us, but he has requested to reduce his hours. So he is working currently 3 days a week, 21 hours. He has a part-time clerk and who worked 7 hours a week for us. We've raised that to 10 hours a week just to help him with the paperwork. Mr. Haleva currently services approximately 60 clients. You see we've level funded veterans benefits, annualizing out this year's veterans benefits through March. It looks like we're at about $349 and change, so $350, that seems to be a good number. Library, again, electricity, heating, fuel, and building maintenance, that's what I offset the town building utilities by, those numbers. And that 325,922, that is our state number. That is calculated by the state. That is our minimum requirement in order to maintain our certification. And we meet that requirement. Retirement, one of our budget busters. That number is given to us by our state regulatory agency, PERAC. Under insurances, you see highlighted in yellow, health insurance. That is a 15% increase in the health insurance line. I'm requesting a 15% premium increase for the employees. I need to do coincide that with a 15% increase in the town share. That's what this is. Our workers' comp and our general liability and police fire accident. I'm still waiting to hear back from our insurance advisor as to what those numbers are. That's why they're highlighted in yellow. Those are fluid numbers. You'll see at the bottom the increase in appropriations from fiscal 16 adjusted to fiscal 17. This draft for both town and school, it's a 50% split. It's a 5% increase for school and a 5% increase for the town. And again, I've attached, as I always do, personnel detail. And again, just to be clear, the ADA coordinator, I am going to fix that. There is no stipend for that. And on this particular presentation, the Finance Committee Secretary is 0. That's the $3,350. That should go there, so just to be clear. That's very quick, down and dirty, so if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I want to thank all the department heads and the school department for working with me. I'm proud of this budget. I think, again, the school likes to use the term maintenance of effort. I think this budget reflects that. However, again, it doesn't move us really forward. I was able to fund some priorities in this budget. There's many more that are not funded. Staff is always a priority for me. And so this budget does not contain any decrease in hours, any loss of staff on the town side, nothing like that. So I just want to make that clear, because last Friday there was some discussion that there was, and that's not the case. This budget, again, I'm big on protocol. I finalized this budget over the weekend. I met with the department head, I met with the school department Friday afternoon and this morning. I met with the department heads at 1 o'clock this afternoon. This has been released to them. I'm releasing it to the Board of Selectmen, and before I leave the building tonight, I'm going to upload this document to the FTP for the use by the Finance Committee. This is the document that we'll use to discuss at our joint meeting on the 31st. Okay?
There were motion on town administrator's report.
Motion to accept the acting town administrator's report.
Second.
We have motion and second discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzl?
Yes.
Selectman Jordan?
Yes.
Selectman Dragovich?
Yes. Old business, Memorial Beach Advisory Committee, committee vacancy and appointment.
We have
Nothing?
no letters of interest.
Okay. Town Administrator Screening Committee, we have 2 applicants, or 2 letters of interest.
Or either of the gentlemen in the audience, I think Mr. Ralph Jr. is here if he wanted to introduce himself. I don't know Mr. Mark Rogers, if he is here. No?
Yeah, I did call Mr. Rogers, and he's away on business today.
Okay.
Well, I'd make a motion for Mr. Ralph to be appointed to the Town Administrator's Search Committee, if you'd want to come up and introduce himself.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so under discussion, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Ralph. I've lived in Webster for my entire life, for the past 18 years. I believe that politics is something that's interested me for the past several years, and I believe that my present situation between my age, my experience with politics in school and with the Navy gives me a unique perspective that will benefit the Town Administrator Screening Committee. So, I thank you for your consideration.
It says here you currently hold a 4.0 at Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty good.
Weren't you an Eagle Scout too, I think, right, in the paper I saw?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second discussion.
Yes, I realize and thank Mr. Ralph for his letter. I am, however, swayed by the letter from Mr. Rogers based on the experience that he has in here. I think says a lot for the global experience he's had and the number of people that he's been able to interview and hire over the years. I guess my only other concern is that if, either Mr. Ralph or Mr. Rogers, if either one of them didn't get it, they could also go to the town moderator and seek an appointment there. But I am, advocating, I guess, for Mr. Rogers, based on the experience that he has. I think this is an extremely important position that the selectmen have an opportunity to pick someone who's got a lot of business experience, and, I see that over the desire, certainly, in the, for wanting this position by Mr. Ralph, but I guess I could not support that, and I would advocate for Mr. Rogers.
I was going to suggest that whoever didn't get the appointment, we forward the letter to the town moderator, so that possibly he can be chosen
I think
by
that would be very
the
wise, as
moderator.
a lot of applicants probably don't realize that the selectmen do not hold all the appointments.
Right, so we have a motion, a second discussion. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
No.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Begavich?
Yes, and we'll submit Mr. Rogers' application to the town moderator, okay? All right.
Thank you.
We have one other item under old business I wanted to bring up. I wanted to clarify, I was approached by one of the veterans this weekend. The veterans, we gave them free stickers for the beach, and I also thought that that included the compost.
No.
Yeah, we
Yes.
explicitly
Right.
said that it didn't
Right.
include compost, so you just didn't.
Okay, I just assumed that they went together, as they always did, as one sticker, so,
But
So-
this year, we decided to break apart the beach from the compost, and the article that was in the town meeting warrant said for our veterans to be granted free access to the beach.
right.
So we're upholding that.
Okay, so then you want to charge vets for the compost?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear, because I was asked, and for some reason, I was under the impression that they would be getting it, but that's my mistake. Any other old business? New business? 2016 seasonal liquor license renewals.
So it looks like we have a renewal from Waterfront Mary's, if I'm reading this correct. Courtney, I'm assuming that this was all looked over.
Is that the
and
only one?
everything is-
Yep, they will be
Capelli's is
held
also
until
listed.
taxes are paid,
Okay.
everything, they have all their paperwork, they will not be released until they're inspected. Same process, it's just, this is the initial part of the process, they both come in and signed and indicated that they are seeking renewal, so.
So we only have Waterfronts here for the seasonal, they're the only one?
There's
No,
Capellini's, I think, is
Capellini's.
listed
Oh,
as
I
well.
get buried in my packet? Stapled. Nice. Can see.
All right, so we have Capellini's and Waterfronts.
Yep.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve both seasonal liquor licenses, Waterfront Mary's and Capellini's.
Second.
So a motion and a second, discussion, all the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Begavich?
Yes. And last item on the agenda is reading of the election warrant.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead
Yeah,
and take
that'll
that
be
for you
good.
if you want, without your glasses. Town warrant, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. To either of the constables of the town of Webster and the county aforesaid, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby required and directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Webster aforesaid, who are qualified to vote in elections and town affairs, to meet in the auditorium, so-called municipal building, 350 Main Street in said Webster, on Monday, the 2nd day of May, it being the first Monday in May, at 7 o'clock in the forenoon, then and there, to act on the following articles, to wit. Article 1, to choose by ballot all necessary town officers for the ensuing year, viz. 2 selectmen for 3 years, 1 school committee member for 3 years, 1 regional vocational school committee member for 3 years, 1 assessor for 3 years, 1 finance committee member for 3 years, 1 finance committee member for 1 year, 2 trustees of the public library for 3 years, 1 trustee of the public library for 2 years, 1 board of health member for 3 years, 1 housing authority member for 5 years, 1 town treasurer for 3 years, 1 redevelopment authority member for 5 years, and 1 town moderator for 3 years. All of the above-named town offices will be voted for on 1 ballot. All polls close at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you are directed to serve this warrant by publishing an attested copy thereof in a newspaper published within the town of Webster at least 7 days preceding the meeting. Hereof fail not, and make due return of your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of holding said meeting. Given under our hands, shouldn't that say 21st day of March? Okay, it says blank of April, so, in the year 2016, and it needs to be signed by the selectmen.
We have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the warrant.
Second.
Discussion, all the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Begavich?
Yes. Informational mail. Nothing?
So we did receive a letter from Mass DOT regarding, looks like approval of funding for the exit to 395 ramps and Route 16 intersection.
That's good news.
And Mr. Chairman, I did speak with Ann Sullivan from the DOT last week, and she indicated that it will be several years of design work to do this. And it also talked about the possibility of either signalization or a modern-day roundabout for the Sutton Road intersection, and then possible signalization at the other intersection closest to the Price Chopper Plaza. So, I mean, this is something that is very high on their priority list. It's something that we had, our company, Moffray, had asked them, the DOT, to investigate because of the large amount of accidents in front, and Moffray folks and state and town folks got together at the company back, I think, in October. And the result was the report that was put out several months ago. So it's a great thing. I think it'll make the intersections a lot safer. But unfortunately, it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
And of course, she said there's no guarantee of funding.
It's better for Moffett too, you're not paying out on so many accidents.
Right.
1 out of 4, that's...
Any other informational mail? We have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion and second. All aboard?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Sturgeon?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Duggan?
Yes.
Almost got the 8:02.
A roundabout.